Welcome. I'm Kirsten,
And I'm Sam.
and we're here to chew the metaphysical fat.
Yes, we
We
are.
are so yes, we are. Woo! We are so fortunate today to have our friend Gary from Quantum Bridge. Gary is not only a guy with a really good podcast, and I really suggest that you watch it if you've never seen it. I will put the information in the description. But he's also a very talented music writer. And frankly, he's so awesome because he is responsible for our opening, which I think is just the best opening ever.
Obviously, but we're not biased. But it is amazing.
We're not biased. I mean, it really is. And his brother did the animation and he did the music, and it's so beautiful. And his brother has a podcast as well, which we'll ask him because I can't remember the exact name of it. But here we go. Without further ado, let's bring Gary in.
Hello.
Hey, Gary.
Hello.
Hello, Sam. Hello, Kirsten.
Hi, Gary.
Tables have turned.
Hi, Gary's cat. Where's the cat gone?
She's gone to bed now, yeah.
Oh, you've let her go.
Yeah.
That was good of you, yeah.
She jumped off. Had enough.
All right. So, yeah, we're pet friendly here. So, Gary, when people come on the Quantum Bridge, you always ask them where they're from. So we're going to ask you, where are you from, Gary?
I live in England. Shall we go further than that? I was born in London. So born and bred Londoner, but...
You poor bugger.
Yes. Well, yeah, that's right. Yeah. No, I managed to escape. So I now live in the Essex countryside. So
beautiful.
Yes, it's very nice. It suits me better. I couldn't stand it anymore. But and there's all stories about that because originally you get, even if you wanted to live there, you get priced out. It's impossible for someone like me anyway.
For anybody, I think there's one of those.
Yeah, you'd have to earn a lot of money, or like they do these days, just give it to the people that turn up. So anyway, that's.
Is that the ones that sleep on the green benches?
Yeah, come in via the back door and get given things. So yeah, but if you want to do it off your own steam, it's very hard. But,
it is. There's loads of jokes, isn't there? It's like they'll take at one bit in London, there was taking pictures of like cupboards and said flat for rent in London, like £2 million or something, and that it's not far off, is it? I once watched this documentary and built a house between two houses, and it was literally like one long corridor. Like you could just get, I don't know, like one lot of stuff in basically, and like one bed upstairs, straight off the stairs, and they actually built it and they sold it. Yeah.
I mean, even our family homes now, it's been turned into flats. So it was a 3-bed terrace, but it's like, I don't know how many bedrooms they got in there now, how many flats, but they've done that with a lot of properties because I don't think people would be able to. Well, some people can afford the whole thing, but they'll charge $500,000 a flat, won't they, or more? So.
Yeah, there was a big thing, wasn't there, where a lot of kind of like Russian oligarchs and rich people from abroad were like buying all the properties up and just kind of keeping it for like tax haven purposes, and obviously that drives it all up as well, doesn't it?
It does, yeah. So I'm one of those guys that has moved out and bought something in the country. So.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I'm from up north, Gary. So there's a bit of north-south divide there, I think.
There is at times, yeah, but I'm not like that.
Neither am I.
There's more of a north-south in London. So, yeah.
Oh, are you actually?
Well, because I was southeast, and North London was a little bit more upmarket. But yeah.
You see, unless you're from there, you don't really realise, do you?
Yeah, you just get north-south divide.
Yeah. Anyway, sorry, I'm just quizzing you about your stuff. Kirsten, is there anything you want to ask, Gary? Because we've gone full BBC News, haven't we? Really?
Well, all right. Well, so Gary, So on this, we like to talk about awakening paths. So maybe you could tell us a little bit about your awakening, so to speak.
That is an odd one, I think, because it's, when does it start? I don't, if I really think about it, yeah, I was
ongoing,
born weird, yeah. So I think, like a lot of people, I had the sort of slap around the face in 2020, an accumulation of things. I would say that's a certain marker, at least, of a more spiritual type awakening, I would say, if you call it that. Kind of like a hit on the head that said it's go time. No more plodding along and making do as you try and do. It was like now is the time to stand up and do something. So we can say that point is major, but really, when I think back, it's my entire life, and my life has been committed to deconstructing these systems. I think that's why I never got anywhere, because I was constantly calling out all the things that people do now. That have become common language now. I've always been use a polite term of BS, I guess, of calling that out in the workplace or wherever I've been, of just saying it's insane, and everyone just going along with things, whatever it be. It just doesn't. I think I spent most of my time in this world just saying none of this makes sense, and in a constant state of confusion. So, yeah. I've been born that way.
Yeah, but I think a lot of us are like that. I think we're kind of born with an awareness, aren't we? And that's the thing. Like I really liked what you said about you were going into the workplace, and I'm assuming you never completely fit in, because you were kind of, because I'm the same, like perceived as a troublemaker almost, because I couldn't just flow with it. Not really a troublemaker, but I'd point out things, and I'd be considered quite subversive, and people just wanted to kind of keep their heads down. And if there's any injustices or even just, absolute lunacy, really, some of the things that they do, and they just do it, and it's like they never question why.
Yeah, well, it's the same in, over all the mad stuff over the last 5 years or so. I mean, you get called a troublemaker? I mean, I never was. I was just trying to sort of streamline things and saying you're doing things that don't make any sense. It's madness. I mean, and I guess like that. So in 2020, it's like, is that troublemaking, saying this is madness? It doesn't make any sense. And it's like that constant battle, but it doesn't help in, well, whatever world you want to call it. You're seen as trouble, or not a company man. You get that thing.
Yeah.
Until I am. I'm trying to actually help, but it was like I say, it was an ongoing battle, and a lot of people sometimes the staff would turn to you because they'll confide in you, and then you would go and say something, or in a meeting you would think, oh, okay, I need to say something here, but then you was like, no one else would back you up then. So until it came out, I said, "We're glad you said that." I said, "Yeah, okay, well, maybe if a few more of you had the guts in there, and I put myself forward,
Yeah,
sort of,
and that's the hard thing, though, isn't it?
It's that,
and that's what more of us need to do.
It is,
guys.
And it is really hard, because you are labeled a troublemaker, or just for saying what's true. I mean, I used to have a coworker when I was a newspaper editor, who would lean over in meetings and say, "You said the quiet part out loud again." Oh. And I'd be like, "Why is this the quiet part?" Why? Because it's obvious, and everybody knows this, and everybody's afraid to say it, right?
That's it. I used to get that, even, anything really. I just used to, they do these performance reviews, and then after a while of doing these, I said, what does this mean? Any of this, And then they would give you a mark, and it was never, they would never give you the top mark. And I found out that they were told you can't give anybody top marks. I said, why not? I mean, so I would say I'd like the top mark. What do I need to do to achieve the top marks? That's what I want, right? And then and then they would still give you the basic. It'd be like time and attendance, and there's your basic that never exceeds the required standard and that sort of thing. I said, well, I came in every day, and every day I was on time. And besides turning up when I'm not supposed to, how do I get top marks? I mean, what more do you want from somebody? So I would just start pushing back on all these things. And I remember one of my very last ones, the guy was like, I'm going to give you this score for that and this one. I said, what? Do what you want. I said, give me a 1, the lowest thing if you want. It doesn't make any difference. It's going to go in a file, so it doesn't matter if I do good, doesn't matter if I do bad. It's the same old thing, So it's a pointless task. And then I would bring this up, these HR meetings. I'd say, you say you want to do this, but then it doesn't mean anything. You just do it for, I don't know, because someone else said you got to do it to tick a box somewhere. And I said, just a complete waste of time. So, yeah, it doesn't go down well.
I imagine it doesn't, no.
Yeah.
And I think you're asking, the thing is, it's the majority of people are in this kind of that consensus state, aren't they? So they're going through the motions and they're accepting things that they're told to do at face value. I think when somebody comes along that says, do you know what, a minute, this doesn't really make sense. Let's just see why this is happening. And these are like the innovators. These are the people that want real change. And I think that's why it's so uncomfortable for people, because they don't like change and they don't like to be, causes friction within them, doesn't it? When you confront them with an idea. So go on.
No, and it's not, you might have found this as well, because people can say it's an ego thing, and it's not, because I'm not trying to threaten anybody's jobs. I don't care, but I think a lot of people project, because they do that backstabbing and climbing and pushing other people down to get up. I just want to get on my own merit. I don't want to push anybody down to go up a ladder. I just want to be acknowledged for the work I personally do. But because I didn't have any sort of education type things, no degrees, nothing, pretty much left school with a couple of O-levels back then in English and music, of all things. But so I was in this constant sort of battle back then in the workplace, where you'd get overlooked a lot for these bits of paper. It's like, you've got to have this. And I'm like, well, it's just a basic job, right? I mean, when you're going through, it's nothing flash, it's packing boxes or filling shelves. I mean, and you'd still lose out to people with degrees and things. And I'd say when I was younger, I had a lot. We can maybe discuss how this has changed, but the intuitive insights were way more sort of switched on. When I was younger, when I was quite young, it was overwhelming that I had to sort of close down, because the world seemed to be buzzing and too noisy. But the intuitive stuff was really on fire, and so I thought, well, look, this is I don't know if they call it soft skills now. I thought, this is worth something, right? But beyond these bits of paper and stuff. So I would try and explain to people, I know things, which is, I mean, I think, why did you bother? But so they would come, they was going to do like a survey, pay a lot of money for some survey or something. So I can tell you the results of it now. I'll save you £1 million. I'll tell you what the public thinks, right? And it's all good, right? And then they would think you're bonkers, or you've got to put it, how do you know this? Write it out, put it in a chart. I've got no time for charts. Just listen to what I've said. But of course they wouldn't, and then they would come back like 6 months later. This is the result. Well, I told you that. I mean, I don't know what you want me to say. You just wasted £1 million. And it got so frustrating. I mean, I'm talking years and years. This stuff would go on, and then we get a consultancy, and I said, I said, well, should I leave and come back as a consultant? You know, then you'd listen to what I say, right? I mean, or I'd say something and then the CEO would change, and then, you know, he'd come in and say all the things I've been saying for the last 2 years or something, and then everyone follows suit. And I said, so this is it, isn't it? It just needs a guy in a suit to come in, someone with status, and then it's all good, right? Now everyone falls into line, you know. So I had this whole, I'm going to use the term chip on my shoulder of, I don't look up. I have to treat everyone the same. You see, I don't look down at people, but I thought a lot of that was come. But I don't. It's not really just about my corner. I fight for everybody in these positions. You know, the little guy. I'm like, stop ignoring people. You know, and looking down. Yeah, I thought everybody has something to say, and that was part of why the channel came about. Letting the little guys come on, not these big things all the time, you know. So there was a lot of that going on of me trying to bring down these structures, even up to, I know you won't be as familiar with the Brexit thing, Kirsten, but through that whole period, again, smashing down this concept of experts, only experts have a say. And of course, we finally got into the 2020, and I'm finally, these things are coming down. It's taken me 30, 40 years of calling this stuff out, and not just looking to guys in white coats or some in kind of suit or whatever, status, that we all have something to say, you know. It'll be, oh, you're going to listen to Dave down the pub. I said, well, maybe Dave down the pub does have something better to say, because he has a different perspective from that point of view. You know, sees things that you don't, you know. So yeah, it's been there's somewhat, I'm completely tired of everything. I'm worn out, but the flip side is I'm like, finally, you know, it's coming down. I'm like, geez.
You feel like it's coming down now since COVID and that kind of thing starting to unfold. People, I mean, I don't know about you, Gary, and I know me and Kirsten's spoken about this, but there seems to be a very big divide. Like the people that get it really get it, and the people that don't just seem oblivious. What are your thoughts on
that? Yeah, but like, I suppose we've discussed it on our show quite a lot, that sort of thing. I mean, one of our most popular ones, I think it's because we had the catchy title of Parallel Worlds. But, so I can keep flogging that one, you know, because it's like, yeah, it crops up a lot, you know, and that divide, and I do see that, and in a way, I suppose that's where I've looked at what they call frequency and your vibe and all this, and I can see how that plays out in the physical. You know, sometimes I think, okay, in my life, how has that worked? You know, sometimes you think, well, you know, someone has to die to leave your reality or something. I think, no, you might just be moving a job or losing some friends, or there are other ways that people part, if you get what I mean. And then you just think, yeah, I like moving out of London, right? I pretty much, I mean, I go in there sometimes, but I don't like it. But there are certain all roads lead to London. So sometimes if you want to do something, an event, or whatever, or even see a friend, you know, it's the way the structures are set up. It's easier to go into there, even though the guy might just live around a little bit. So it's so sometimes I have to face that again, but I don't enjoy it. But again, you know, that it's almost because my vibration fell out of love with the city, and I look at it now. I think, I don't know how I blagged moving out. I don't know. You know, I was stuck with my parents in my 30s, thinking I can't afford anything. I don't earn anything. I don't know what I'm going to do. And in the end, they had a caravan not far from where I'm living now, so I knew the area a little bit. And there was a flat on the market, and I'm just gonna buy it. Let's see what happens. Yeah, I didn't live in it for a while, for a year or so. I just thought I just have to do something, right? I mean, Of course, I had no idea if it was good. It was just good value to me compared to the prices I was normally looking at. I was like, wow, I can actually buy something. So I did. And then that meant that, as the way things work, we made a little bit of money on that eventually, and I managed to get a house. And at 45 or something, I was like, oh my God, I've made it. I've done, somehow I've landed on my feet. I don't know, from very little means. It meant a lot. Yeah.
I can really relate to that because I'm from a very humble background, really, and I've returned to that because I left my husband and all the rest of it. But my mum and dad got divorced. I was raised in a council house, and we were like told, go to school, go to university, get a degree. I didn't. I got pissed. I'll be honest. Not bothered about university. I had a great time in my 20s. And then I kind of went back and did my nursing. But it's like your gate. It's like there's gatekeepers at every kind of post. You've got to do this, so you've got to have this, like you said, that this bit of paper to give you a word and your merit value. And I can really relate to that. And it's a form of control, isn't it? To keep people in their boxes. And I think to it, like the real jobs and the real progression and the upward mobility, they like to tout it, especially Labour. I mean, I'm not going to get into politics because I know a lot of people aren't really into that, but they try and tout it as though it's for everybody, and it isn't. It's just nepotism, isn't it? If you know the right person or you're born in the right family, you're given all these like golden eggs and it's like, these golden opportunities. But when you're just person, you've really got to kind of work out how to game the system almost, because you're just going through the motions, if not on these prescribed paths that are put in place. And some, will go a little bit further. Some will maybe, they'll get okay jobs, but still they're having to give up all of their time to invest in this. And it's actually what it's doing. It's investing in keeping the system as it is. And I think this is what we're moving away from now. It's more like experience-based positions. People are being more organic with what they're doing. It's like the grassroots movement, especially, because obviously going from the nursing, I've left nursing now, and I'm kind of figuring out what I'm going to do next. But it's almost like, since I closed that door, the opportunities that are coming and the paths just kind of unfolding for me. And I think it's just figuring out sometimes what's the right path for you, and getting out of that mindset of, we need to do this, or we need to get a degree, or because whenever I slip into that, the doors are always shut. But whenever I just follow my heart and do what I'm meant to do, even though it's really scary, and sometimes I'm like, when I left nursing, I was like, fuck, what am I going to do? I've got no money, I've got 2 kids. But I just have to do it, And then it's just,
I've done that. I've walked out of quite a few jobs to nothing. One of my last ones, I did.
Yeah.
I have my rants on the way out, of course, because I would just say again, I'd just be like, I would just call it all out. I say, I can't believe, you get these guys that come in, they got all the talk, and I said, did no one see through this? And then within 6 months, they're gone, and there's chaos everywhere, and then they end up just getting another well-paid job somewhere else, and it came down to that whole thing. I said again that there's nothing. You don't look at anything about the individual person, what they bring as their qualities of who they are. Are they honest? Are they reliable? Are they hard work? What's their work ethic? None of this seems to matter. I said, you can teach. I mean, that's the jobs I said, even my desk jobs are. I said, it's just a dumb job, right? You can learn that. But the work ethic and things, you can't teach really. And I think that at my last moment in that, I'd always worked in retail, I could never move up the ladder, and I was just like, I had an opportunity. I was working in HMV and Oxford Circus. Doesn't exist anymore, but I think the Oxford Street one's back. But anyway, it's the biggest entertainment store in the world, apparently. I used to like that because I liked the products and things. It was interesting. I could work with my little kung fu movie DVDs and stuff. But and then they had a position in the head office. I thought I can get off the shop floor. You know, I'm gonna go for this, and it was a temporary thing. And I remember the guy. I was doing that for a while, and then this guy, the supervisor there, he was a real pain to start with. He would keep coming and getting you to do things. No, I was like, okay, you know. There was the sort of guy that he'd ask you to do something, and then you went back, and he's like, well, what about this? I was like, well, you didn't ask for that. And he's like, well, now I am. So then it was this backwards and forwards. This would go on for some months. In the end, at one point, I said, listen, I don't have the time for this. You know, you should tell me what you want. I'll get it done, and it's all good. This coming backwards and forwards is no good for me. You know, I remember sitting back down at my desk. I thought, I've blown it. I'm out of here. But he did email me and apologised. I thought, wow. And even when it came to, I did about 5 years there, I think. I thought, this is my last shot, and I finally had an opportunity to get promoted as the team leader. I thought, right, okay. The whole team recommended me. The guy leaving recommended me. Even that guy who was a pain at the start recommended me. All the external teams that you worked with recommended me, and I still didn't get the position. They still got somebody from outside. And I was like, something is telling me, it's time to go. Yeah. Of course, it worked. It worked out okay. Of course, it does, doesn't it? You know. So I remember they were doing redundancies, and I took that at one point. I took one for the team, actually. I said, look, don't worry, guys. They're looking for someone to go. I'll go. So I had a meeting, and then the rest of the team had the meeting, and they all came back looking miserable. And I said, what's up? I said, I really want someone else to go now. So me and my friend walked out the same day. So that was good. You know. So
yeah, that's good. Well, and those things do usually turn out better when you actually step into it. And I mean, that's one of the things that we're taught, that it's really bad to just leap into the void, but often the very thing that will get you to the next place is leaping into the void. But I was listening to that, Gary, and I was thinking about how we live in this world where if you just speak the truth directly, that is considered to be a problem. And furthermore, the whole idea that you should have to earn a living because you're here, I mean, you deserve to be alive here. You were born here. If you're born into this world, why should you have to earn anything? Obviously, you are supposed to come here. You're supposed to live here. Why do you have to do this? And the whole idea that earning a living is you've got to go do some stupid thing that doesn't even really do anything for anyone, while someone else makes all the money, and you're supposed to be grateful and just, it's.
Yeah, well, the other thing to that is that, some people, you can earn a living, even if it's a basic one, but not in anything that you enjoy, or it's very, very difficult to do that, I find, and I think Casper told me a story recently where he was in Florida, and he was staying in a hotel, and the manager there, she had a band, and she was a singer. And one night, the singer who normally does that in the hotel was off sick, and they was looking for someone to stand in. And she said she could do it, and she did, and she did a very good job of this singing. And they were like, well, can you always do that for us? And she's like, well, yeah, but you have to pay me, like, that would be my job, sort of thing. And they're like, but who's going to do the managing the hotel, And that's just this sort of thing, again, that she can get paid to manage the hotel, but not the singing that she's passionate about. They don't want to pay her for that. You can, I just thought, this is so weird.
It
I even
is.
see it with, like I say, Casper, he's put some books out, and there's plenty of people that put books out and things. I just think, man, apparently there's 7 billion people in the world, and you can't get enough people to buy a book to put a bit of food on the table,
Yeah.
It's weird,
It is weird. Well, I think it's definitely designed that way. Sam, by the way, your mic's on mute. If
See, I've been talking all that time, Gary. My dog would bark. I was like, nobody's listening to me. Oh, that's a bit sad.
I was like, but it is, and it doesn't make sense. I mean, I ran into the same thing teaching yoga. People want a yoga class, but when you say, well, you have to pay me a living wage to do this, it's like, oh, well, it's like, this is an expertise that I studied to do. I studied intensively for 3 years. I have the equivalent of a degree in yoga, though I don't have I have some pieces of paper, but they're not apparently worth anything. And it's like, why do you expect me to share all my expertise for free? You have an expertise. I don't expect you to come do it for me for free. I mean, ultimately, it would be great if we could all do everything for free that we just wanted to, and we didn't have to earn money. But the thing is, we do. And, this kind of gets me into one of my pet peeves, which is people who say, well, you shouldn't get paid for doing spiritual things, like, say, energy work or something, because, that comes from God. So why should you be paid to do that? And it's like, I have an expertise here, but apparently my expertise is not worth any money. So I need to do something else that I hate to earn the money so I can do my expertise when I'm, on my time off, which, let's face it, I'm not going to do that.
But that's the thing. When you look at it as energy, because you anything that you put your energy into, that's what money is, isn't it? It's like the physical, matrix-based, quantum bit of whatever it is that we trade. It's just how we perceive our time, essentially. Energy, because obviously you put your energy into the time, and that's all it is. And if you started looking at it as like, oh, this person's giving me their energy, attention, and time, and that's what we're going to pay them for, wouldn't matter what you were doing, because you it's the exchange, isn't it? Yeah.
It's also, I don't know. I mean, along with everything else in the world that seemed insane my entire life, it was incredibly depressing and frustrating to be doing something that when I knew I should be doing something else. I mean, we can get onto the bigger thing of that. I think I just always wanted to be creative, and I would be in the workplace as well. I would do as much as we could, I would do that with retail displays and things. Of course, a lot of time I would ignore. They would send you plans that you're supposed to. You've got to be like this, whatever, That's if you don't know what you're doing. Yeah, that's right. I've done this long enough. I know. See, that was another insane thing we had. They had this thing with the cigarettes behind the counter and that, and they sent a plan in. It came to a point in the UK where you couldn't have them on display anymore. They had to be hidden, and then you would open it up to then get them for the customer. The customer had to ask for a specific brand. Couldn't show them, And there was people spending hours doing a plan, laying them out a certain way that nobody would see, And I was like, why don't you just? You're the only person that's come in here. Why don't you just put them in alphabetical order, right? So that you can quickly find them. But they would insist it has to be. I said, you are out of your mind. I mean, wasting your time laying this out to some plan that some guy sent in that means no one sees it. You just make your job easier. Put it into an order that makes it quick for you to find them, rather than you still can't because they're all over the bloody place. And again, it would just be incredibly frustrating. And beyond the sort of creative frustration that I felt I was being bored to death, soul destroying for decades and decades, I've always had this deeper thing that I'm supposed to do something bigger. And that was also incredibly frustrating, because there is a knowing inside. You're like, it's not this rubbish. It's not this. How on earth do I do this random thing that I'm supposed to do? I have no idea. And that dread of being stuck there. And that was I don't care now, but that was a fear for me when I was young, of dying and not achieving this thing that I didn't really know what it was, but I knew it was something that felt important to me anyway, that I'd come here to do something. And I speak to other people, they don't have that thing. They just plod along and they're happy. I'm like, no, I have to do something. I don't know what it is, but it's not this rubbish. Yeah, and this is incredibly frustrating, constantly having that fire inside and having to keep it suppressed. I don't know. There's a lot of things. Like I mentioned off camera, when I was younger, there's a crippling amount of social anxiety. So I think probably around mid-20s maybe, where I sort of had a kind of a breakdown, I guess, where I cannot cope in this world anymore. I can't speak to anybody. I'm terrified of everything. And really, I've been working on that until I still struggle. But again, in that moment in 2020, again, it was like a fire burning away all that anxiety. It was terrible, but it was like, it's time to let all this stuff go. And I'd like both your opinions on this particular thing, because growing up, there's the voice inside that I feel inside, but there was also some sort of thing that at least felt outside, and that would sort of chat, and then I'd run it through my discernment. What are you talking about? And that acted, I would say, like an alarm, a guard. And that was it was almost like pointing out fear, dangerous everywhere. This is handy at times, right? Because it told me if someone was being deceitful, and then I could say, no, I know you're talking rubbish, But I used to be way more vocal in that way. So I've had enough, But more recently, it seems to have disappeared. After all these years, that energy, I don't feel it as strongly now. It's weird. And we had a guest called Jane on, and before one of the shows, Casper was telling her about, he has this weird thing. And she's like, okay, let me just quickly read your energy. And she felt, there is something there. It doesn't feel horrible. I said, no, it's like a mate. Right? I don't know. It's just something I feel that warms me. But I said it's very fear-based. It just warms me of everything that's in this world. Like, look over there, look at it. I'm like, oh, shut up. But now it's dissipated, and that feels odd, because I'm like, well, where are you now? Yeah. But I don't know if you have any thoughts on why that would just suddenly not be around anymore.
Well, I would say probably you've grown beyond that, because a lot of times we have these helpers that come around, but when your vibration goes up, you need a different kind of helper. And I would say probably you're more connected to your higher self now. You're more aligned with with your soul, because you came here, you didn't come here to fit in, and you didn't come here to do what everybody else was doing. And even though it seemed like you actually weren't, because you were bringing a different perspective and a different vibration. And even though that didn't appear to be doing anything in the world, it actually was, because you have helped to shift this world. But I would say you've probably grown beyond that. And so probably also you're probably more integrated, so you're probably more connected to your higher self, and you maybe don't need that same kind of I don't know. What do you think, Sam?
I'll just unmute my mic. Sorry, my dog's eating a bone. We've got interesting pets today, haven't we? So I think we can have all sorts of stuff. There's a book by somebody called Jamie, I want to say Ito, but I could have pronounced it wrong, and I forgot the name of it. And he talks about all the different voices in our heads that we've got, and they all serve a purpose. And he talks kind of about having to make friends with them all, really, and give them a place and integrate them. So I know you said you've got the voice that was inside, because I've got like some sort of like party going on in my head half the time. And some aren't even me, I'm going to be honest. I'm like, who are you? What do you want? But yeah, when you talk about this kind of external voice, did it feel like it was coming from higher up, or did it feel like it was some kind of entity, but like obviously not a negative one, just something that was just there? Or
it did feel like that. And you can remember, you probably both feel this as well. Some of the stuff when I was younger and I was quite perceptive with things, you just assume everyone is, you know. So I would just be like, "You can't see this." No. Okay, this is straight. Even like, even we can put a lot down to pattern recognition, right? You know, just like, if you do this happens. I mean, it's not, it's not anything special. It's like, you know where this is going, right? You can see, and they'll be like, no. And it takes some time to realise that not everybody sees the world through the same lens. And like I said, it was very noisy when I was younger. I don't know how to describe that. Just too much stimulation, it would come in, and it's like my mind, it was recording like everything, like a movie, and I could play, someone would say, they said, so you didn't say that. I said, I wish I could show you, because I can flick back, right? And I can show you what actually happened if I could, had a way of doing that. And it was like, constantly, you go past, and I mean, in London, you get bombarded with adverts and everything, but all this was being recorded. And it wasn't until I met my wife, where she doesn't do any of this sort of, has a much quieter mind, I think, because her job's so busy. But I said, you didn't. Well, I said, that thing, you didn't. We just drove past it, or just walked past it. I didn't see anything. I was like, at that point, I was like, how can you not? But now I'm a bit more like her, which is nice, because I'm like, yeah, this is good. It's not so noisy anymore. It's not rubbish. I don't need to recognise all these things. It's.
Do you feel like what's actually happened is a bit like what Kirsten said? You've integrated this external experience, because I know a lot of I mean, I was going to give you a bit of my own thoughts and what you've been saying. Really, you seem like. So Dolores Cannon talks about these 3 waves of volunteers. I'm sure you've heard about that.
Yeah.
And obviously the first wave that kind of came in, they had to contend with this really dense energy. And like Kirsten, I think yourself, a part of like the ground crew that are really trailblazers that have forged the path. And you guys really had it the hardest, because the energies are really dense, and you had to come in with your own kind of way of doing things. And I think the reason that you noticed such a disparity with the people around you was because you were so different, and because the energies were so dense then. And as the energies have kind of risen, what I'm kind of noticing is that the general population, or the ones that are left anyway, but that's probably a discussion for another day, their frequency is also rising. So they kind of, I'm not saying they've got parity, but they're much more aware. And I think there's not much of a chasm. There's not as much of a chasm between kind of how we're operating and how they're operating, because it's just to do with the vibration or the frequency that we're in at the moment.
It's an interesting point, because when people say, "Oh, is something happening? Is there a shift? Is there an awakening?" I'm like, well, yeah, because if you lived in that dense stuff, you feel it more. And I know I said, well, it's certainly. At first, I thought, right now now I'm starting to feel more comfortable in the world, where it's becoming uncomfortable on that side sort of thing. I'm like, okay, well now it's your turn. I'm starting to feel a little bit more that the energies in the world are supporting me now after 54 years. But so it's I say, so yeah, I see it changing, and that might not be happening as quick as I like. But I guess there's reasons for that. And also what Samantha mentioned, I haven't figured it out yet, but something around the X symbol everywhere. Obviously, we've had Twitter changed to X. I think Kirsten is probably saying to me a Generation X. Now, whether my investments, we won't go into that, but there are certain assets that are supposed to be new, and they all lead with an X. We have XRP, we have XLM, we have XDC. It's like, okay, so what is all this about? It seems to be some kind of symbolism there.
I just want to throw in Planet X.
Planet X.
Yeah.
Solar flare X's, and
Good connection.
Elon's son is X or whatever. There's just SpaceX. I mean, it's just, I'm like, I haven't figured that out, but I
just want to throw this out there as a bit of a psychic nudge. So when you've got a graph, you've got the X line and then you've got the Y line, haven't you? So we need to find out in comparison to what that's the X, but what's the Y?
Yeah, correct. Yeah,
That's a good point.
I mean, it's an odd position. I always find myself on the fringe of things. I've got accustomed to that space, even if it's uncomfortable at times. And having the last sort of 5 years, for me, I've been bombarded with spirituality stuff. Before, I was just there's no God, I die, and that's the end of it. And actually, I was okay with that. I don't believe that, but I'm quite disappointed in that now. But because I've just had enough. But that's a darker tale. Sometimes I'm just like, I just leave you all to it. You seem to, I'm out of here, because being bombarded with all that new spiritual information, again, I have to run it through my heart and my discernment. And rightly or wrongly, I find myself in the space again of pulling some of this down, or at least pointing out what I perceive as contradictions. I'm like, oh, here we go again. I'm not quite buying all of this stuff. I get some of it, other bits, and no, they don't make any sense to me. And I'm okay. I really trust the process, so that when I'm supposed to know something, I will, and I'm happy to change. I might wake up tomorrow and believe something completely different. So anything I say today is under that condition. No point watching it in a year's time. He thought this. Like, well, I'm flexible because I've gone through that process. I don't really. Well, I do believe inside somewhere I know things, but my sort of 3D guy doesn't particularly. He's figuring it out. But I think I just sometimes now I'm like, I'm not buying all this stuff. I need to start picking some of this apart again. It's not quite hitting home, yeah. So,
is it the X stuff that's? Sorry, I've got a bit of a dodgy shoulder. Is it the X stuff that you're really not? Because I mean, I noticed a shift energetically, because obviously Kirsten and I, and obviously yourself going, kind of read energy, and the feel of it now. I mean, I go on it. I can maybe do a day, and then I have to delete it for a few days. I physically can't even have my profile active because there's that link. It's like it feels like it's really grabby for the energy.
I've definitely felt that, yeah. I mean, I pretty much just post our videos out. I don't do much else on there really, or I see you like your guys' posts and the few people that I get on with Alpine, and that's what most of them have been on the show. But otherwise, it seems a bit pointless, really. Although I get some great insights off there as well. But you have to filter it yourself. But that's a skill as well. I used to say to people that was the new, because there used to be stuff that really wound me up on there, And then I was like, well, okay, well, how do I make it not wind me up, right? How do I not get triggered by these stupid things and politicians and so, it's a good tool. But now I don't care,
I mean, and what did you do to do that? Because I mean, a lot of people could probably benefit from that knowledge.
Oh, that's the question, isn't it? What did I do?
It's a work in progress, I'm sure. Yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, it's a kind of I don't know. It's such a personal thing, isn't it? Of how you stop doing that. I mean, I got friends that still really struggle with it. I say, mate, just forget it. I suppose sometimes I think, how can I say this to them? I go back to that taking your own power back. I try and do that. I try and say, look, just do not let this person, whoever it is, the prime minister, whoever, I don't care, don't let that person have the power over you to upset your day. That's it, right? You're not going to allow that. No matter what the idiot says, you don't know him, he has no... just don't let them come into that field of energy. It's like, I think that's what I ended up just doing, really, is like, I'm on the constant mission for peace in my... So I don't often, it's way better than it used to be. But that's, people say, what's your aim? I just want to be peaceful. I just want to be left alone. And but the world's mad. It's constantly coming at me with rubbish, Or I'm having to engage to earn stupid fake money. It's like, I don't want to. I want to win the lottery and disappear on a private island or something. Or a big house with masses of land and just gates, and say, that's it. I'm out of here. But have fun, everybody. Sometimes you have to go against your desires, I feel, though, which is where the podcast thing came in. Because I really didn't want to... that was tricky for me. I just thought... But again, there was that nudge inside that said, you have to... I had to do it. I mean, I didn't really have a say. It took about like 6 months of this nudging, of me saying, no, I ain't doing that. it's like, no, you have to.
Can I just say, Gary, I was the same. Kirsten's like, we're going to do a podcast. And I'm like, yeah, maybe. Yeah, right. And she's like, no, we are. We're going to do a podcast. And like, yeah.
I mean, I would panic beforehand, and then afterwards, I'd be out of it for 2 or 3 days, just drained. But it's okay now. I mean, the thing is now, and people do take this the wrong way. I don't like them to take it that way. They think I don't like the guests and things. I said, stop it. I love everyone that's come on. That's been amazing. And for me, that's where the value lies, in the people I've met and the network. But yeah, I don't enjoy it, I have to say. I could pack it in tomorrow, but I think it has value. That's the thing. It's. I think my main thing was that originally I was scared to do it, and then I thought, okay, once I get over that, I'll feel better. And now I'm like, we're not really scared of doing it anymore. So you're not doing it out of fear, but you kind of still don't want to do it. And I'm like, yeah, I don't know. I guess like the rest of the world, it feels slightly inorganic to me. It's a certain time you're going to have to do a certain thing, like it would be much easier. I'd much prefer someone said, "Do you want to meet for lunch?" I'd be, yeah, great, let's go and have lunch, you know. And but the cameras and I'm not, no, it's not my thing. I've realised it's not my thing, but it's been really useful.
Do you feel like you kind of put on the spot? Is that because I mean that's how I feel sometimes? Like, oh, like you said, you were talking about the cameras, and you've got to sit there and you've got to look at yourself, and it's a bit like, yeah.
I might not have the energy at 1 in the afternoon. I don't know. You know, I've said I'm going. You know, I've booked someone in for 3 o'clock. I'm like, maybe I don't feel like it at 3. You know, and then I've got to make myself look presentable or whatever. I don't know. I just feel. I know it sounds bad, but I just feel I've got better things to do. But. And I'm being honest, I can't be inauthentic. That's the trouble, you see. So I say these things, and like saying people take it the wrong way. It's like I just have to be honest, you know, because, like you said, sometimes saying your own truth upsets other people on things. I'm trying to do that. I just can't be inauthentic about it and say everything's hunky dory. If you know what that means, I don't know, Kirsten. But you know, but. I wouldn't necessarily be doing the creative projects I'm now doing without that. I mean, I wouldn't have met you guys. I wouldn't have created the intros. I mean, I've done lots for the Quantum Bridge as well. That whole intro that we did there, the little mini movie we did, all the work I do on my brother's channel. There is some work I'm doing now. You know, it's promising, I have to say, you know, through people that we've met on the channel, either on our channel or Steve's channel. It's, yeah, I can't deny that. And it's great having the platform again, because I go back to the essence of it, of providing a voice for other people to, you know, to come on and say, give that sort of route to the public, if you like. I never felt that. The only reason I wanted to do it from a personal part, I just thought maybe something I say helps somebody else. I didn't really have a massive desire to tell my side of things or my story or whatever. I just thought, I've always said on the show, I said maybe someone else is scared to come on. They see me, they're quivering away and think, well, if he can do it, you know, anyone can. That's it, you know. Because I felt that everyone was having maybe that same awakening thing that I was having, that activation thing, and they needed some support and a place to go to share that sort of thing. And I really, like I said, even if I talk about projects I want to do, like even on the humanitarian side, it's always about sovereignty and self-empowerment for individuals and the creatives to be able to express themselves. I hate that we're hidden and we can't. And I think humanity misses out on so much art, music, dance, whatever it be, is just lost. And it's like, what a shame. It's just, it's criminal, I would say. But, and we talk about that as well.
Yeah. Go on, Kirsten, what are you going to say?
That's the most awesome thing about what you're doing, Gary, that, you know, because, and I think, you know, Sam and I had a really similar thing. It's like, we want to serve people. We want to help people. We're not in this because it's a big ego thing to be like, oh, here we are. We have a podcast. Look how awesome we are. It's about helping people. And we have the same thought, you know, we want to encourage people and serve people and help people who are on this path, because we are hidden and there are a lot more of us than we actually realized. And it's time that people knew it's okay. It's okay to be weird. It's okay. You're not the crazy one. You know, that was a big thing for me. You're not the crazy one, right? Because I was walking around in the world for years going, wow, I am so crazy because I don't get any of this. It just seems, everybody else seems to get this. And I'm going, what the hell is this? This is insane. What is wrong with these people? But it's like, it must be me, because everybody else is just like, oh yeah, this is normal. This is what we do. And to know that there are other people in the world. And that's why you're doing such a great thing, Gary. And I know it's hard for you, but it's also, as you said, it's also, and Sam and I saw this too. It's like, it's a stepping stone to making those connections and really finding other ways to serve, because like you said, you made that, I love that little mini movie you made with the unicorn, and I loved it so much. And it's just, it is a service. And so thank you, Gary. Thank you.
That's all right. You're welcome. it's yeah, I mean, I think it's like I was saying before with with all the spiritual stuff now, and unfortunately at the moment a lot of it sounds the same to me as what I've been trying to escape. And I'm like, it can't be this. And maybe sometimes it feels right. I'm saying, yeah, but it is. I'm like, but then it's just as rubbish as what I've been going through. It's more lessons and tests. I mean, that's what I hated about this matrix thing. Going to school and lessons and tests and judgments, and I don't want any of this rubbish. So there's a real battle going on of like, I don't know if it's an ego thing. I still strive for absolute sovereignty, and I mean, obviously I've never got into the whole worshipping thing. I can't do any of that. I can't bow to, I mean, anything. So I don't subordinate myself to anything really. But then I still struggle when people tell me I'm some part of God or something, or I'm a God. I'm being, well, maybe that's why I don't bow down. I don't know, But I say to them, and I've said on the show, but it's difficult to feel that while I'm filling shelves, right? I mean, there's something, and then what is the point of? And I know this is all from my limited perspective. I get all that sort of stuff. I can easily look outside of myself. We did a show about superpowers. We might get our superpowers back. Yeah. I think, well, that's interesting, right? That's or that is our natural state, or maybe, or whatever. And I'm like, but here at least, what does? I mean, I look at Superman, and he still had to work at the Daily Planet, right? I'm like, what's the point? I mean, maybe he can deliver parcels for Amazon quickly or something. I don't know, or do welding with his eyes. I mean, kind of like, at the end of the day, he had to go and be a journalist. I'm like, unless, like I can't remember if it was 2 or anyway. There's a one where he has to fight his dark, evil self, and I thought, well, really, unless you use these powers for perceived negative means, like I think there's a thing where you're sitting in the bar and you're like, well, I'm not paying. And the guy says, we got to pay. No, I don't have to pay. Yeah, because what are you going to do? I'm all powerful, right? Yeah, whatever. But I think if you want to do the right thing, then you need this rubbish. It's like the powers don't help anymore. I mean, so I'm like, it sort of again doesn't excite me. I'm like, well, I think that's where I'm at though. I've freed myself from so many things rapidly over the last 4 or 5 years that they still have their tender hooks in with this nonsense. This money thing. It seems the last thing that we all need to be liberated from. I believe that's coming. I believe that is coming to some extent. But I wish it would hurry up.
I agree. Well, it's been a long, hard, especially for people like us who came in at the beginning of this. Well, not at the beginning, but the people like us who came in on the first wave, or whatever you want to call it. Mm-hmm. It's been a long, hard haul. But you know what I want to say about all of that, like the Superman and getting our superpowers back and the spirituality, I think what happens is that there is a push to take all of that stuff and it has a grain of truth in it.
Yeah.
It has a grain of truth, but they're twisting it, even that, to keep you in this box, whatever it is. So you will say, well, why should I have superpowers? Because I still have to work at the Daily Planet. Well, you know, it's like you still have to be in this totally fucked up matrix, but that you can fly.
Yes, you
I don't know.
fly. Okay.
Well, I mean, that would be pretty cool. But
Yeah.
I think, but you know, and I think ultimately, if you want to call them superpowers, I do think that is our natural state. But, and I think that's one of the frustrations that people like us have when we come into this matrix, because we're accustomed to being able to just say, hey, I want this, and it appears and it materializes, or yeah, I'm going to fly over here now. And you can. And I think that that's one of the things that is so disheartening when we come into this existence, because suddenly we apparently can't do that anymore. But, and I think, you know, I do think that there's a deliberate, like, I saw this movie. I only watched it because it had Channing Tatum in it. That's the only reason I watched it. Sorry. But it was called Jupiter Ascending, and it was about this woman, and she ascends, and she still has to be a maid.
Yeah.
She's like the queen of the world, but she still has to be a maid. And I was just like, no. No.
Yeah.
We're not doing that. But I really think that's a deliberate, you know, oh, we're going to take the wind out of your sails. Look, you know, here we go. And I think a lot of the spiritual stuff is the same way. And I see you making a lot of posts, Gary, about what was the one you did the other day about
I don't know.
it was something about oh shoot, it's gone out of my mind, but I was thinking, yeah. I mean, I can see it because a lot of the people on X and other places that doing the spiritual kind of stuff, it's still trying to put you in a box. And one of the things you said earlier that I loved was, you know, you may believe this today, but you may not believe it tomorrow. And I'm the same way. It's like, I'll tell you what I think today, and Sam's the same way too. But tomorrow I may think something completely differently. And that's one of the things that's the difference between growing and staying in a box, because every belief ultimately is a box, isn't it? So you have all these spiritual people coming at you and saying, well, you have to get in this box. It's still a box.
Right, that's where I'm at. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's like it's still a box. Yeah. And so then I'm like, well, I don't know. Something deep inside to me says there is no box. So, but then
I
at the
agree.
same time, I respect. You know, these are people that I respect their opinions and things. So it's difficult sometimes. You know. But then you just have to really just go with yourself, and like I said, where you're at that moment. I just think it's not sitting right with me at this moment. And then, and then I'll get people. They'll say to me, "Oh, you know, you got to think big. You got to think limitless, and you know, whatever." And I said, "You do realise why I found this world so frustrating, right? Because I think bigger than it. It's that's the whole point. It's boring and tedious because I think way bigger than this." But and then they'll just say, "Well, you got to believe that. Oh, I don't know, or it can happen now. You just got to believe. Your thoughts create your reality." And I said, I think about it. I think about winning the lottery a lot of years ago. I mean, it didn't. You know, I mean, there must be more to it than just thinking. There's plenty of things I think about that don't happen. You know, and maybe some of that's good, but you know, I think it was. I personally loved the video that Alpine did, the Divorce in the Universe, because it came. But the way he was talking to it, I thought. It was the same things I've said in the jobs, that it didn't matter if he did good things or worked hard in the spiritual sense, or if he did nothing and just played video games all day. The result was the same, that he got slim pickings, you know. He didn't get much back. And yeah, that's how I've always felt. It's like, I don't know, maybe in the bigger scheme of things, well, I mean, I don't know, down here at I know duality and it's all an illusion and good and evil and all this sort of stuff. But, you know, I've tried to be a good citizen and, you know, do the right thing and not harm others and or be a thief and all, you know, but what kickback do you get? I mean, there's nothing. It's like, okay, and maybe in the afterlife somewhere, but then they'll probably then say, but oh, none of that made any difference because it was all an illusion anyway. So more fool you. And I mean, you should have just been the bad guy robbing the bank or something. Yeah, more fun. I don't know. So it's a yeah, but like I say it does feel that that's changing. Why?
It is changing, and one of the reasons that you see this, and I just want to say this because I think you need to. I think everybody. I understand how you're feeling because I've felt the same way so many times. But the thing is, we are shifting it. We are shifting it. It's not shifting as nearly as quickly as we would like it to, and perhaps in our lifetimes, it's not going to shift to the point that we would like it to. But the truth is that it is shifting. And you, Gary, are part of that. I'm part of that. Sam's part of that because we had the courage to come into this fucking hellhole, right? And see things differently. And that's what was needed. And that's what's needed. And that's why you're important. That's why I'm important. That's why Sam's important. That's why the people who watch the show are important because they are seeing things differently. And just that shift in perspective is shifting the whole collective consciousness. So, yeah. So
I agree. Everything to me is about consciousness. That is
yes.
the one thing that I think is the most important thing. It's the only thing that shifts and changes things here, at least. And I mean, sometimes I sort of look at it in a very 3D sense, and I'll be like, you can see things I like food, and and tea and cakes, and only a shift in consciousness brings
Me too.
about. Yeah, right. Yeah, these things bring around better produce. People shifting in consciousness, caring about what they consume, looking more at it, animal welfare. I mean, it's the reason why, like I say, you can go into a store now, you know, and we started getting organic foods, normal foods, basically, you know, but it gone so bad that we now have to brand normal food. It's something special. But anyway, it's a shift in consciousness that means there is a market for that, and that is how you keep moving it. Like, I mean, there was a big furore recently when they were going to add something to the cow's feed, and it was going to, you know, and for once there was a big kickback in, you know, we want to know what's going on. We don't want that in our dairy produce. I think that is the only way I can see it in the world. And when we went through a period where all the small businesses, you know, they were taken by big supermarkets, and the little bakery guy went, and all these things, and all this stuff starts to come back because people say, well, I want a decent loaf of bread, or I want to, you know, I'm bored of corporations. And again, I know it's we say it's taking longer than we might like, and there is a truth in what these spiritual people say, that it is up to us. We can speed this up. You know, that is what I try to say to people. Well, just think about where you're spending money and whatever you're doing. You can move it quicker, but that's often falls on deaf ears. But but you know, everyone has to come to that realization in their own time again about how you can sometimes feel powerless, but you do have the ability to make small changes that have a big impact, you know. that's how I look at, like I say, how things are moving. People's mindsets are changing. I think it's whether or not we are also being attacked at the same time. I mean, I somewhat feel that countries have their own consciousness, and maybe that's why Western countries in particular are being attacked from outside and infiltrated to reduce it takes a long time for our societies to get to where they have, where where lower crime rates, things like that. The way men respect women, all these sorts of things and you get to a certain point where it's okay, and then it's like they sort of push it all back down, and it's kind of like chaos and mayhem again. And it's like that's also frustrating because you're trying to drag us back to the dark ages here or something. I don't know how that's going to get rectified. Maybe I know they're talking about it, certainly in your country, deporting people and things, and the same here now. I just think, why does it need to get that bad to come? I'm always prevention rather than cure. But it's, and then again, but I'm also, I wasn't, but in many ways, I'm also a borderless type of guy, providing there's a certain consciousness in the world that I should be free to go where I like, but I'm not really going to cause any trouble,
Yeah.
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 It's another thing that's in the movement of people is inorganic again. It's forced and weaponized, and but ideally, at some point, I'd like to live in a world where we just go and do what we want, But,
well, we will, because we're shifting the consciousness, and I think again the answer to all of that is consciousness and shifting it, and we're doing it. Yay.
It is right. So yes, ultimately you can see it.
You can see it. We're doing it, and I think that's a good place to leave it today. You think? Is there something else you want to share, Gary, before we?
No, I think that covers a lot for people if they want to watch it, and hopefully they might get something from it. So they can always watch more on our channel. It'd be nice for Samantha. She was going to join us at one point, but we can arrange that again.
Yeah.
Nice.
I had a bit of an attack of vanity. I had like an outbreak of spots, and I was like, I'm going to have to message Gary, and he's going to think I'm such a woman. Honestly, I looked like my face looked like a Brillo pad. It was horrible. I don't know what was going on.
Yeah, well, we don't mind, but yeah, it's okay.
But yeah, I will definitely come on. I'll make sure that I've like cleansed and stuff, and I'm not having any problems.
Let us know when you're ready and you feel.
Yeah, we'll sort it out. But it's been lovely to talk to you guys. I'm sorry, I've been muted a lot because my dog's chewing this bloody bone.
That's all right.
But if I don't give her it, she goes a bit putty.
Yeah, cats are safe.
Where can we find you then, Gary? Can you tell us a bit about your links?
You can find us on YouTube at the Quantum Bridge, I think. Something like that. X, it's at the Quantum B. And there's also a Rumble channel as well, in case we ever get booted off YouTube. But I'm really bad at uploading on there. So. Yeah, but it's there as well if people prefer that. Because some people don't like YouTube. Yeah, there's a lot on the go. If anyone is interested in that other stuff that's on my brother's channel, that is Ultimate Fight Clan. It's Ultimate with the number 8. So. But you can find that if you like kung fu movies, like I do. I know it's not everyone's cup of tea, but yeah, I do a lot of music for his channel on there. There's a lot to come out actually that I haven't uploaded on our channel yet. And I don't want to say too much, but yeah, like I said, there's a project I'm working on. It's maybe doing some music for somebody's first feature film, so that will be quite good. So we'll see how that goes. So I'm creating sort of demos for that at the moment, and so far he's been happy, so it's good. If they end up in the movie, then great. There would have been another fantastic thing that's come from all of this. Because that was one of my brother's guests as well.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's awesome. Yeah. So do check Gary's Quantum Bridge channel out. Check out his Twitter account. Check out his brother's Ultimate Fight Clan. Yeah. And we're so grateful that you came on with us, Gary, today.
Yeah, hopefully it's not too miserable or depressing.
Oh, I'm still in chat mode. The dog's licking me now. I don't know what song of it today. It's in season. She's being a right needy bitch. Sorry.
No, that's all right. Well, I do think that we are shifting consciousness, and I think it is helpful for people to hear, because I think a lot of times people think, oh, if I'm going to look at things from a more conscious perspective and I'm going to be spiritual or whatever, I have to be all light and love. And it's not all light and love. There's a lot of shit in this world, and we need to look at that shit. Not real shit, some real shit.
Definitely what's up for that.
Yeah. Like you say, it makes people not feel alone in their
Exactly.
Like exactly. Because it is a lot of love and light, and there is that.
Yeah. I think people go to the spiritual community, don't they? And they're looking for this place to kind of fit in. Because I don't know how you guys felt, but I've felt like I've never really fit in anywhere my entire life. I've always been like a square peg in a round hole. And I was like, oh, I found my people. And then I actually found out that a lot of them really weren't as like me as I thought they were. But that's okay, because we were different. But I just think, yeah, it's trying to find people that you kind of gel with, isn't it?
Yeah.
And that's why there's so many podcasts, because it's going to be, every podcast is going to appeal to somebody. I think that's the thing, isn't it?
Yeah, people that I can have a cup of tea and cake with. There we go.
Yeah.
That's right. All right.
A cheese sandwich with some pickle.
Oh, that sounds yummy. All right.
When I come visit you, I'm going to bring you some pickle.
Oh,
yeah.
good.
Homemade? No.
All right.
I usually buy it from the church. Some old granny's made it or something. I always do that. Buy marmalade and things.
Oh yeah, from like the grandmas at church.
Yeah.
And the people, and they do like lemon cakes as well, which are yeah.
Oh, yum.
Anyway, don't get me onto that.
Yeah, sorry.
All right. So thank you so much for joining us, everyone, today. We love you all. And yeah, we're going to play this beautiful, as we go out, Gary's wonderful video that he made. I love it. And Gary, if you want to stick around for a minute after,
Yep.
Okay.
Take care. Thank you.
See y'all on the flip side, as Sam says.